get to Congresswoman Ann Wagner, kind enough to join us today. Ann, how are you?
I'm great, Mark. Great to be with you and your listeners.
Well, thank you so much. Did you watch the Super Bowl last night?
Man, can you believe it? So I channel surfed around a little bit, but I kept getting drawn back in, and it's a good thing. That was amazing, really amazing.
What a game! Yeah, that's the truth. Let me ask you first, just about the story I ran a little snippet of there. This Congressional Review Act. Congress has been trying to stop some of these things, but you have a limited window to do that.
We do have a limited window to do that, and we passed a number of them last week, and I think we're doing 5 more this week. This allows it's a procedural thing for your listeners that actually allows us to move something through by simple majority, not just through the House, which you can always move things through the House with simple majority, but allows us to do that with the Senate also. So we've got a limited number of provisions and overreach that this former administration, President Obama, put through that we're able to do, and we're gonna move forward on that, along with a lot of the executive orders that you've seen the president moving forward in the last 2 weeks with. So
sure,
we're thrilled.
Yeah, I want to talk to you in a moment about the executive order he signed to at least review or slow down the DOL standards for retirement accounts. But before I get to that, because this executive order and this travel restrictions really dominated the news cycle the last 4 or 5 days, what's your take on this? Do you think that ultimately this is a court is going to prevent the president from protecting Americans?
Absolutely, absolutely not. It's an absolute overreach by the Ninth Circuit. The stay that was sent down out of Seattle, but I guess we shouldn't be surprised by the Ninth Circuit.
Yeah.
And their left-leaning bent. Certainly the First Circuit out of Boston upheld it. And yes, it is absolutely the president's prerogative to keep our nation and our American families safe. And we need a time here to review our national security policies and better protect American families. So I do believe that this will get settled here in the courts, and we'll be able to move forward with stronger vetting procedures for foreigners entering the U.S. from many of these war-torn and terror-ridden nations. It's about our safety and security. It's about Missouri families first, and the courts. I think this will get settled outside of the courts.
And as someone pointed out to me, part of the problem with these 7 countries, as identified by the Obama administration, is that they don't really have a centralized government where you could go to them and try to check for criminal records or war criminal records or whatever the case may be, which is the additional threat.
That's correct. And this does not go after immigrants or people that have entered our country and are here with legal status, a green card, a student visa, things of this nature. This puts a pause, much like the Obama administration did and the Bush administration before him on areas like Iraq, on Syria. This is nothing unprecedented where we say, hang on, let's review our procedures before we open up. It's a 90-day pause and then a 120-day pause. 90-day on immigrants coming in, 120 on refugees, and I believe that it will stand up in court.
Yeah, I've just been disgusted the way the media has portrayed this and continues to portray it in the mainstream press. I'm not quite sure when the truth gets out there, but I appreciate you coming on and talking about it a little bit.
You bet. And for people to go on and try and foment and cause hysteria by calling this a ban is beyond misinformation and media hype. It's flat out a lie. This is not. This is a pause in both of those processes, both through immigration and the refugee program. And I look forward to them being reinstated. But we've got to protect the homeland, and we've got to update our vetting procedures, and this president's going to do so.
We're talking to Congresswoman Ann Wagner. The Department of Labor issued some rules known as the Fiduciary standard for anybody that's got an IRA or 401k. This is going to impact you, and they were given a deadline of this April to have these changes in place. Now there's a chance that's going to be delayed or reviewed. What's your hope out of this?
Oh, well, I mean, I had the great privilege of standing alongside the president in the Oval Office last Friday. It was quite an afternoon when he signed an executive order putting a halt to what I call Obamacare for your retirement savings.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that we're going to have now the Department of Labor able to delay this misguided rule, as you accurately put, that was going to take place in April of this year. Give them a chance to repeal that rule, and then, Mark, we're going to move this. We're going to legislate, and I'm going to move that legislation, and we're going to put this back in the proper jurisdiction, out of the Department of Labor, move it to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and I support, along with many in industry, a best interest standard that's in the best interest of American families. But what the DOL tried to do with well over 1,000-page rule letting was add several different standards. It was a trial attorney's bonanza, and it was not going to take care of those low and middle income investors in America. So now we're, I think, on the right course.
Yeah, it really limited the choice of people who weren't really well off in terms of getting any sort of financial advice. So
Correct. And it cut down their access, not just their choice, and it would have raised costs at a time when America is in the middle of a savings crisis. You know, this is about Main Street. I'm so tired of Elizabeth Warren and the left harping on about Wall Street. This is a Main Street issue. You know this, Mark. You and I have talked about it at length. In every corner of middle America, there's three things. There's a gas station, a Dairy Queen, and a broker-dealer.
Right.
And you don't want, if your car's broken, you don't want a dentist looking under the hood. You want an auto mechanic. And the Department of Labor had no jurisdiction in this arena. I'm going to move it back to the SEC. We're going to have a best interest standard, but it's going to be one that is both affordable and accessible for American families.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I heard Vice President Pence this weekend discussing DoddFrank and some of the changes that need to be made to that. And of course, the media only wants to question him on, well, how can you have Steve Mnuchin, who was on Wall Street, now in charge of trying to roll back Dodd-Frank? Isn't he just going to do what's in the interest of the big banks? But, quite frankly, Dodd-Frank probably benefited some of the largest banks. It's the small and medium-sized ones that have suffered, and it's people trying to get business loans.
That's correct. I mean, we need capital access to capital put back into our small business and entrepreneurs across America. What the damage that Dodd-Frank did to community banks was outrageous. And the other executive order last Friday, again that I had the privilege of standing there with the president when he signed, directed the Treasury Department, to do a 120-day analysis, going to all the financial services regulators out there and saying, okay, do a 360. Tell us what's working and what's not. How can we better improve this? How can we make it so that we can take the foot off the throat of this economy and business so that they can thrive and grow? One of the greatest gifts that we've been able to give the American people with the Trump administration is a rollback of so much of this Washington knows best red tape. So, yes, we're looking at a strong review, and then on the Financial Services Committee hope to put forward the Choice Act, which is just that, going to give American more choice and an opportunity to grow our economy. And you know what? And get Washington once again out of their business, whether it's health care or their retirement savings. It's time that we return the power back to the people.
Yeah, I wish we had more time because I've got so many things I wanted to ask you about, including tax reform. But before I get you off the phone, I want to ask about Obamacare. There were a lot of headlines this week that Republicans in Congress have moved from repeal to modify or something like that. What can you tell us about that?
No, we're going to repeal Obamacare, and we're going to replace it with something that's much, much more free market and patient-driven, and that actually empowers the states. What's amazing about what we're putting together is a plan that will allow block grants to go back to the states to set up programs that will include all, including those with pre-existing conditions. I feel very strongly that this is a mandate that we have from the American people. They spoke this last election. They want this health care system that Obama put together that is failing Missourians. They want it replaced. You know that 96 of the 114 counties in Missouri only have one provider, Mark? It's outrageous. And the costs, the deductibles, it just is untenable. It's collapsing under its own weight, and we do have a way to move forward. So don't let anybody tell you we're equivocating on this. What we're going to do is have a good, stable transition period so that no one feels like they're going to have the rug pulled out from underneath them.
Sure. Yeah, that's good. But before I let you go, one last question. On a statewide basis, Governor Greitens signed right to work today. How do you feel about that?
That's great. That's great. Again, opening up the pathway and putting out the welcome mat for business in Missouri, which is good for all Missouri families.
Very good. Congresswoman Ann Wagner, listen, thanks for your time, and we'll look forward to getting another check-in with you in a week or two. How about that?
Can't wait.
All
Always
right.
available.
Yep.
Take care, Mark.
Thank you. Appreciate it.